This is the GoPro 13. I'm just hand holding it with a bare hand. I've got no grip on it or anything. And I got it about arm's length away, which is, I don't know, about that 12 to 14 inches away. And this is what it kind of looks like when you're walking with it. I put the field of view in full frame terms at about 16 millimeter. It's in the linear mode. But this is kind of the field of view. If it's an overcast day, you can see the front screen. You can get the lines lined up. They're not lined up. Lined up. So you can deal with the warp a little bit. So this gives you an idea what it looks like. Kind of the feel of it. It all depends on the light. It all depends on the background. We've got a lot of converging lines in the background. Now there's less converging lines. That also gives you an idea what it looks like. In my opinion, I think it's too wide. It's great for getting a lot of the background into view while holding the camera very close to your face so you can get decent audio. I just think it's a bit too wide. Now I'm going to switch it out to a focal length, a field of view, which I feel is a bit more cinematic, a bit more, I don't know, real. This, on the other hand, this, on the other hand, is a Samsung Flip 6. It's got about 24 millimeter full frame equivalent lens, which is a lot tighter, but there's just a lot less warp as a result, which I prefer. The cool thing about the Flip 6 is that you can use the main camera to shoot everything. You don't have to use the selfie camera. You can just close it and use the main camera, which means you have access to a larger sensor and I just think it's a lot more cinematic, more filmic. Just, I don't know, a little bit real looking. It's just not so warped. It just looks better to the eye, you know? But again, it all depends on light, depends on your background, and I guess it depends on your personal preference. Some people are kind of into a really, really wide shot, which shows a lot of your background. And some people just want things to look less warpy. And it also can depend on pointing the camera forward. That has an effect as well. That's how it looks like when the Flip 6 is pointed forward. That's pointed forward. Even when you tip it off axis, the lines just look a lot more normal to the eye. Everything just looks a little bit more normal to the eye. Now this is the GoPro 13 with its 16 millimeter, I guess, about field to field lens. You can tell everything is just really stretched out and warpy. It doesn't look quite as bad. I mean, obviously you can get a lot better stabilization with that wider field of view. It's just easier for the camera to produce smooth footage. It all depends on your shutter speed. Like, we're at about minimum 1/60th here, which is great for static shots, but I'd have to stick the shutter at 240 if I wanted to make sure that it's not going to create any EIS vibration. But in an overall sense, I just think this wider field of view is just, it's not as pleasing to the eye, I don't think. It just seems a bit too stretched, too unreal. Not good for storytelling. However, if you have a good story, I guess it should transcend the field of view of your lens and just the warp of the lens. Especially if you're pointing it forward and talking back and behind, then it doesn't look quite as warped, especially if you can keep the line straight. And now we're back to the Flip 6 24mm field of view, and they're getting ready for the Remembrance Day ceremonies tomorrow. I don't know, I think it just looks a lot more, I don't know, you could argue that maybe it's a bit darker. Zero out the EV comp. I don't know, to me it just looks a little bit better. It just looks like the eye would look. This sees what the eye would see. You could argue that the GoPro gives you a smoother image when you're walking. I won't argue with you there. But I think this Flip 6 does an okay job, an acceptable job of smoothing out the image when you're walking with it. High action, maybe not. Just for walking along, I think it's fine. One thing that you might argue is, well, it's tighter. You have to maybe get a grip and put the camera on a grip to extend it farther from your face to get a wider field of view. I wouldn't do that because then you got audio issues. But I would just accept the tighter field of view. And also, when your face is bigger in the image, the camera has an easier time focusing on your face and an easier time exposing for your face. So you get a more correct exposure. And then you can put your head over here and it's not so warped. Or you can put it in the middle or over here. Whereas with the GoPro, if you're not smack dab in the middle, you're going to look really warpy. And then of course, since it's a Flip 6 camera, it's easy to just go from front to back to front to back, just like with the GoPro. With the Flip 6, you just hold it, I hold it with my right hand, and then do the flip action with my left hand. You need two free hands, which may kind of suck, I guess, because yeah, it's a two-handed flip deal. Now with the GoPro, you can just hold. I can just hold it with my right hand, and then flip it around one-handed only. So you can do the same with the grip too, but definitely if you're holding it with your thumb and your index finger, it's easy to just flip the GoPro around. It's got the screen in the front, screen in the back. I wish the screen on the front was a bit bigger. I mean, it's overcast today, so you can see it. But on a bright day, it's hard to see it. I stuck the shutter at 240. So that means it's going to be really easy to get like smooth footage. But you gotta watch your screens really closely when you go into manual exposure, when you're using manual shutter on this. I mean, the screens in the Flip 6 are big compared to the screens on this GoPro. And the screen monitoring is essential for knowing what exposure you're at. Focus you don't have to worry about, but exposure and framing and keeping it line straight, that is tough. There's a spider there. See, I can't see the spider with this GoPro, but he's there. It's tricky to see, it's so wide. But with the Flip 6, I can see the spider. I could even like zoom in on that spider, which is kind of cool. Focusing on them is a little bit tricky, but you can lock it. Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's one good thing about the one good thing about the Flip 6. It has this flexibility with framing, focus. You just do more stuff with it. Like if you're eating at a restaurant, you could show your food. See, right now my face is a little bit overexposed. You can tell because the screen's big enough. It's because my EV isn't high enough. So I'll just go in here. Crank down my EV to minus 0.5. Kind of helps so you automatically keep your exposure in a certain zone, which is kind of nice because then you can move through a lot of weird light and get away with it. It just has flexibility, I guess you could say. You can just do more stuff with it, which should help your storytelling, hopefully. But I don't know, the thing with these gear is, your opinion on the gear is changing all the time, as your life changes. What kind of a life are you living? What are you doing? What kind of stories are you trying to tell? Then your gear has to adapt to it. And everything's personal preference. Some people just have specific preferences, specific lenses and fields of view which they see the world with. So it's kind of like, you can't be too set on one thing. You have to be prepared to be open to the world and to trying new things. Never hurts to try new things. This is how the Samsung Flip 6 looks in a controlled studio type situation. I've just got it sitting on a Joby monopod / tripod situation, and yeah, we're using the main camera to shoot with. I'm looking at the cover screen, which is more than big enough to see exposure framing. So this is kind of the field of view, the compression, the kind of degree of warp that you'll see. You can I'm not using any, I'm just using the onboard mics. I mean, you could easily attach a lav mic to this, like the Samsungs are really good with shotgun mics, lav mics. Okay, now we have the lav mic hooked up, and now we can get back, I don't know, as far as we want to, and we're going to have perfect audio. Focus is going to be good. Audio is going to be good. And the Samsungs are really good with lav mics, wired mics, shotgun mics, because the Pro Video mode is, it has levels. You can monitor your levels. You can set levels. It's set up. Samsung has acknowledged filmmakers and given us a camera app that addresses basic audio issues like setting levels, monitoring them, and just visual confirmations that everything's working. Whereas Google Pixel phones haven't done that. iPhones haven't done that. There's a lot of other Android phones, but I haven't experimented with them. But kudos for Samsung for, you know, giving us good basic audio. And it's a really, like the audio like on an iPhone. I had an iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, and when you hook a lav mic up to it, the levels are so low. I had to like amp them and post so high, but not with the Samsung. I mean, Samsung's really good with audio. Then you can put your hands in the shot, and your hands don't look too weird, like as if you do that. If you show a product, you can show a product in the shot with this lens. It's a 24mm field of view, and everything's not distorted. But with an action cam, it's distorted. So in an overall sense, the Samsung's great because it's just more flexible. Just because the lens isn't so super wide, it's just more normal as the eye sees. So you can represent reality in a much more real way. So it's not so weird. But yeah, you could, when you got this lav mic on, you could back up as far as you wanted. You could even get a wireless thing going, but the lav mic, and anything that's a shotgun mic or a lav mic works so fast and so easy on a Samsung phone that just like wired mics, like wireless mics are just a pain with the battery situation and just more stuff. And you're supposed to have backups for everything. Having a couple backup lav mics, easy, cheap. But backups for wireless situations and all the power you need, it just sucks. So yeah, this situation here with the Flip 6 is probably best in an overall sense for most vloggers because you can do it all. You can active vlog, you can passive vlog, monitor yourself. It's just more flexible. I just wish that Samsung would like run with this idea, make the cover screen bigger, and you can't access the camera app from the cover screen. You gotta go back behind onto the main screen. So they're crippling it. They're just crippling it purposely. But if Samsung wanted to run with it, and you took like the sensor from the S24 Ultra, the 1/1.3 sensor, and put it into this flip design, made a bigger cover screen, allowed the full camera app to be accessed from the cover screen, it would be a vlogging beast. And then put like a mic right here in the corner, pointing this way. But I don't think they want to do that. You know, it's a money thing again, you know, it's like, that's the incremental update that will come in 5 years or something, you know. It's already doable, but they just don't want to do it because we don't want to do everything right now because then we'll have nothing to offer the people in 5 years or whatever. But still, this 1/1.5 sensor
in this Flip 6 is still pretty decent. It's bigger than in the action in the GoPro 13, which is a 1/1.9. It's technically good enough. It's like reached a threshold where it's acceptable. If you got a good story, these visuals are fine. Stabilization's fine. Everything's fine. There could be some ergonomics that could be improved, like allowing the cover screen to have the normal. What you have in the cover screen now with this Flip 6 is it's a different camera app. It's kind of like a pared down camera app, which is the regular video mode, which sucks. You need the Pro Video. The Pro Video is in the main camera app, so you have to kind of like set it up on the main screen. But yeah, Samsung has right now probably got, technically speaking, I would say the best phone for vlogging. Technically. But again, some people will just prefer to use the selfie camera because it's got the bigger screen. And that's fair. I mean, some people just don't care about having slightly better image quality, and that's fair. And I think that camera companies know that. That's why there's a reason why camera companies, especially phone manufacturers, aren't really catering to vloggers, and it's a monetary reason, and it's just, I guess there's no demand. Like I'm making videos about this, and I'm probably like the only one on the internet doing it because nobody else cares. So, and you know, it's about money, and I get it. Everything's about money in the end, right? Okay, this is the GoPro 13. We have it in a passive vlogging situation. This is like in a studio situation. It's like on a GoPro pod, kind of like a little bit. It's like the GoPro grip, just sitting on a table, and it's completely stationary. And we have it on linear, so it's about 16 millimeter field of view, full frame equivalent. It's about 12 inches away from me. I'd say it's about as close as I'd want to get, because if I get any closer, I probably will get out of focus, and it gets really warpy. Whereas if you sit back, there's less warp. So the reason why this action camera, and all action cameras can work really well in static shots, is even though they have these really wide lenses, if you don't do stuff like this and put your hands in the shot, and if you just stay in the middle, center of the lens, and get it away about a foot or two, and your background is blank, no lines in the background, no texture, so you can't really see the warp as bad, it kind of works. You can tell it's a little bit wide, but it's not so bad because you're in the center of the frame, no texture in the walls, you're back far enough. If you put a lav mic in, or a shotgun mic, lav mic, or maybe a wireless mic, and you backed up, well then you're gonna have even less warp. I didn't do that with this GoPro because in order to, my favorite external microphone or mic situation is a lav mic. But in order to do that, you have to put the media mod on, which sucks. It's a pain in the ass. And with the DJI and the Ace Pro, you also have to add stuff on to get a lav mic or a shotgun mic on. If you're gonna go wireless though, then action cameras, you just slap on the wireless mic, and some of these wireless mics, they record right to the mic and you can sync the audio later. You don't even have to like use Bluetooth. But I just don't like wireless mics, or I haven't embraced them yet. I like the wired situation. It's just so simple and easy. And the Samsung Flip 6 has a camera app that is set up to accept wired mics really easily. You just plug it into the bottom of the phone. It's got levels. The levels are really strong. You can monitor stuff. It's awesome. No other phone has that. But even the app on this GoPro 13, it's got two basic levels, main level and a high level. And the main level's okay for lav mics, but I'm not going to do it. The built-in mic is fine, especially when I'm this close. And if I stay in the middle of the frame and I stay about 12 inches away, it's gonna be okay. Obviously, it's pretty loud out there in the street, but maybe that adds a bit of realism to the shot. It just depends on the vibe you're going for. I've got kind of a grunge vibe going, so it works, but some people are like, have a really high-end, high-quality, polished vibe they're after. Well, then they got the fancy lighting. So then they need to have wired mics or wireless mics. But the point being is that action cameras I don't think are as good for active vlogging because I don't like the wide field of view, the warp. But for static vlogging, passive vlogging with a static shot, yeah, it can work. And you can, with the GoPro, you can set it on a tripod, set it on a table, put the media mode on, have your lav mic plugged in, or your shotgun mic, and away you go, right? And just leave it there. Don't touch it. Do all your talking head shots. Just set up the exposure, set up your lighting, and you're good to go. It's a fairly cheap camera. Or even better, you can put on this contacto thing. There's a new accessory with the GoPro 13. It's like you replace a door with this magnetic door, and then there's a magnetic power source that just clips on, plugs in the wall, and you got power forever. You could stream, you could just talk forever. If the camera falls over, the magnetic thing just snaps off, nothing breaks. Especially if you were just using the built-in mics. I mean, this is why I like using the built-in mics on this thing, is that they're really good built-in mics. Best of any action camera I've ever used. Of course, I haven't used them all, only used the GoPro, but really good front-facing mic. And yeah, it's just, in this form here, it's just so robust, you know. And also, here's the interesting thing about the static shot that works with this action camera. The lens is, like, right now I got my hand on the camera. I could be holding this camera standing somewhere like in a hotel room, or it could be on a tripod. You don't really know. And that's the thing. You could, in theory, do a static shot with this thing, just holding it. And the stabilization's so good, even at 1/60th of a second, if the shutter is stuck there, it'll absorb all your handshake at 1/60th of a second, give you decent low light, and you could just be in a hotel room or just stop anywhere in your car, just hold it like this, and it could work. Get decent audio, use the built-in mics. But again, passive, static shot. When you start moving, that's when you get more warpy stuff going on. But I still say, you know, there's just such huge potential for these action cameras in vlogging. You just need the bigger front screen with touch control, a little better control of your audio, some audio levels and control of them, and instead of a 16mm field of view, go for a 20 to 22mm field of view lens. And I like the form factor. It just needs to be a bigger screen on the front, narrower lens, have a built-in like foam thing on the front mic, and the ability to just direct all the audio to the front mic and shut off the other two mics. Because I know the Insta360 Ace Pro has a little foam thing now on their front mic, which is great. I'm not sure of the audio quality though, because with this thing you can shut off the voice isolation software, which makes this mic great. But with the DJI and the Insta360, I'm not sure if you can shut off the voice isolation software. And that's the key. You need to be able to disengage, because this thing has voice isolation software that you can activate in it. It does help when it's really windy, but when it's quiet like this, it doesn't help at all. It makes it sound worse. So just basic things, but it's as usual. Most camera manufacturers don't like to serve the vlogger. And it's got to be because of money. There's just not too many people who vlog, and or it could be maybe GoPro is going to serve the vlogger. Maybe DJI and Insta360 are going to serve the vlogger at some point in time. Maybe the cell phone manufacturers will serve the vlogger at some point in time, but they're just doing it incrementally. So they slowly add features. So like in 10 years, we'll have a really good vlogging camera. But we have to wait for the incremental updates because they need to release new features every year. But to be fair, we have cameras that are more than good enough to vlog with. What we're really lacking is story and character. That's my weakest point. So I can't complain too much about any camera. I should be complaining more about myself and my weak storytelling skills, because that's where I need the most focus. I don't need a new camera. I need a new me.